Your husband is cheating with my ex-best friend. Check your DMs. That message flashed across our live show's chat window while I was doing a segment called How to Spot a Narcissist in a Relationship. I'm a licensed psychologist. I've spent 10 years dissecting manipulation and betrayal on national television. But somehow, I missed the fact that my own husband was planning a new life without me. At first, I assumed it was a troll. I get dozens of those. But something about this one felt cold, targeted. When the cameras cut to commercial, I opened my phone. There it was, a blurry photo of my husband Greg at a wine bar, leaning across the table with his hand on a woman's thigh. But here's the part that made me dizzy. I recognized her. She'd sat front row at one of my Atlanta speaking engagements, asked personal questions, took notes, stayed behind to chat after. I thought she was a fan. Her name was Tara. And according to the DM, she was married too. That message? It came from her ex-best friend, Kiara. I couldn't watch your show anymore, she wrote. Tara's been bragging for months that Greg's going to leave you. I begged her to stop, but she said you'd never see it coming. She was right. And the worst part? As a psychologist, I've told countless callers, don't become someone you're not just to prove a betrayal. But that night I made a decision. I was about to become that person, and Greg? He had no idea the woman he was lying to was trained to read people for a living. Still, I couldn't just walk away from my life based on hearsay. I needed more proof. But first, I needed to understand what I was dealing with. Over the next week, I started paying closer attention. Greg's behavior, his patterns, his lies. I noticed business cards in his wallet for companies I'd never heard of. Unexplained charges on our credit cards. Tax documents for accounts I didn't know existed. One evening, I was in our bedroom when I heard Greg in his home office, door slightly ajar, on what he clearly thought was a private call. No, Kate suspects nothing. I'm careful. It's just a matter of time before I can make the move. Kate. He was talking about me like I was an obstacle to remove, not a wife to cherish. The next morning, I installed an AirTag in Greg's car and synced it to my phone. 3 days later, he told me he was flying to Chicago for a business conference. The AirTag pinged in Atlanta. I booked a flight. The hotel Greg and Tara were staying in wasn't fancy, just discreet. I sat in the cafe across the street, dressed in a gray hoodie and oversized sunglasses, sipping cold brew while watching the lobby. My heart hammered against my ribs. Part of me hoped I was wrong, that this was all some elaborate misunderstanding. At 3:47 p.m., I saw them exit hand in hand, laughing. I snapped photos. The sight of them together, so casual, so comfortable, hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't a momentary lapse. This was a relationship, a whole separate life Greg had built without me. Then I noticed something strange. Another man had appeared near the hotel entrance, trying to look casual while taking photographs of the same couple I'd been watching. He was positioned behind a pillar, phone angled discreetly, with the same tense focus I probably had. When Greg and Tara disappeared from view, he lowered his phone with the exact same defeated expression I felt on my own face and started pacing up and down. That's when it hit me. I wasn't the only one conducting surveillance. My phone buzzed. A text from Greg. Conference is running late, don't wait up. The casual cruelty of it made my stomach turn. Here I was, watching him live his double life, while he sent me lies as naturally as breathing. I approached the pacing man cautiously. Are you Tara's husband? He turned slowly, sizing me up. Depends who's asking. I'm Greg's wife. Silence. Then he exhaled a long, bitter laugh. Well, damn. What are the odds? His name was Oliver. Engineer. Married to Tara for 6 years. He'd suspected something for months, but never had the courage to dig deeper. Until now. I followed her GPS, he said, showing me his phone. She said she was at a spa retreat in Savannah, but her location kept pinging here. We talked for 2 hours at that cafe, trading timelines, stories, evidence. It was like putting together a disgusting puzzle, each piece confirming the other's worst fear. She told me she was at a women's retreat, Oliver said, showing me a text. Greg had told me he was pitching a book to publishers. We laughed, bitter, exhausted, done. But something in both of us clicked. We weren't just victims anymore, we were allies. We could expose them, Oliver said, together. I didn't answer right away. My mind was racing, not with revenge fantasies, but strategy. I'd spent years helping people navigate betrayal. Now it was my turn to apply everything I'd learned. They're going to a fundraising gala in 3 weeks, I said. Greg's on the board, public, formal, high stakes. His smile grew. Perfect. We exchanged numbers and made a plan. The next few weeks were surreal. I went through the motions of normal life while plotting Greg's downfall. But Greg, it seemed, had plans of his own. He started small. Comments about my mood swings. Questions about whether I was taking my supplements. Subtle suggestions that I seemed stressed or paranoid. "You've been acting strange lately," he said over breakfast, not looking up from his phone. "Maybe you should talk to someone." The irony was staggering. Here was my cheating husband suggesting I needed therapy while he carried on a year-long affair. But I recognized the technique immediately. Gaslighting. Making the victim question their own reality. I'd written about it, taught about it, helped others recognize it. Now I was living it. For a brief moment, I almost doubted myself. Was I overreacting? Was I losing my grip on reality? Then I remembered the AirTag, the photos, the overheard phone call. No. Greg was trying to rewrite history, but I had receipts. He even started leaving self-help books about anxiety management on my bedside table. "I'm worried about you," he said one evening, his voice dripping with fake concern. "You've been so paranoid lately. Maybe you should take a break from the show." I almost laughed. He was trying to undermine my career now, too. But I played along, acting confused and grateful for his concern. Let him think he was winning. Oliver and I met at a small park across town a week later to coordinate our next move. He looked haggard, like he hadn't slept in days. "She's been acting strange too," he said, sitting heavily on a bench. "Overly affectionate, buying me gifts, classic guilt behavior." I noticed his wedding ring was gone, but there was still a tan line where it used to be. Despite everything, he was still holding on to hope that Tara would come clean. "Part of me wants to confront her first," he admitted. "Give her a chance to explain." "She's had a year to explain," I said gently. "Some people only tell the truth when they have no other choice." He nodded slowly, understanding. We finalized our plan for the gala, but I could see the pain in his eyes. This wasn't just about justice for him. It was about the death of his marriage, his trust, his future. I felt the same way. We were both about to lose everything we'd built. The only difference was we were choosing to do it on our terms. Oliver initially balked when I first laid out the full plan. "You want to do this in public? In front of all those people?" He ran his hands through his hair. "I can't. This is insane." "Oliver, think about it," I said. "They've been humiliating us in private for a year. They've made us look like fools to everyone they know. My lawyer says a public confrontation would actually help our cases. Showing their respectable public images are fake will strengthen our divorce settlements." But he was already shaking his head. "No, this is too much. I'm not doing this." He stood up abruptly. "And frankly, I'm starting to think you're making this worse than it needs to be. Maybe you should just handle your own marriage." He walked away, leaving me sitting alone in the park. I felt crushed. Not just by his rejection, but by the accusation that I was somehow making this worse. Was I? Was strategic exposure really the answer? For 2 days, I heard nothing from Oliver. I started to doubt whether I should go through with the gala plan alone. Then, on the 3rd day, my phone rang at 11 p.m. "Kate?" Oliver's voice was shaky. "We need to talk. Now." 20 minutes later, he was at my sister's apartment where I'd been staying, looking like he'd seen a ghost. "I went home early from work today," he said, collapsing onto the couch. "Tara was on the phone in our bedroom. She didn't hear me come in." He pulled out his phone and played a recording. Tara's voice was clear. "Greg's just one of them, honey. There's also David from my firm and that contractor who did our kitchen. Oliver has no idea. He's so naive he actually believes my book club meetings." My stomach dropped. "She's cheating with multiple people?" "At least 3 that I heard her mention," Oliver said, his voice hollow. "Greg isn't special. He's just convenient." The recording continued with Tara laughing about how easy it was to manipulate these stupid men and how she had backup plans if any of them got too attached. Oliver looked at me with new determination. "I was wrong. We can't handle this quietly. She's been making fools of all of us. When is this gala?" "Saturday night, 7 o'clock. I'll be there." I didn't sleep much in the days leading up to the gala. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Greg's smug face leaning into Tara's. Or worse, Tara's face from that recording, laughing about how easy it was to deceive us all. The day of the gala, I almost lost my nerve. Greg had been extra attentive all week, bringing me coffee, complimenting my outfits, acting like the perfect husband. For a moment, I wondered if I'd imagined everything. Then I got a text from Oliver. Just confirmed. T told me she's at book club tonight. Even left a fake book on the counter as proof. The lies never end. Greg called me from the office that afternoon. Hey babe, I'm going to be late tonight. This board meeting is running long and you know how these gala setups can be. Of course, I said sweetly. Take your time. But I was already dressed and ready to go. That night, I wore an off-white silk dress Greg had bought me for our anniversary 2 years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. I wanted him to see what he'd thrown away. The event was at a historic hotel downtown. Crystal chandeliers, champagne towers, that fake sense of high society that makes people think their secrets can't touch them here. I arrived alone, scanning the crowd for any sign of Greg and Tara. A few colleagues waved, probably wondering why I was there without Greg. I made small talk, all while my heart pounded in my chest. Oliver arrived 30 minutes later, looking sharp in a dark suit. We made eye contact across the room and nodded slightly. Everything was in place, and right on cue, there they were. Greg in a tailored black tux, hand on Tara's lower back like she was his wife. And Tara? Dressed like a Disney villain with money. Perfect. They moved through the crowd like they owned the place, accepting congratulations on some project Greg was supposedly spearheading. I watched them laugh, touch, share intimate looks. It was like watching strangers wearing the faces of people I'd once loved. We let them circle the room for a bit. We wanted an audience. We wanted witnesses. Oliver caught my eye and nodded toward a cluster of local society reporters near the silent auction table. One of them had a camera. Perfect. And then we struck. Oliver was the first to step forward. Tara, he said loud enough to turn heads. You forgot to mention your little charity date was also someone else's husband. She froze mid-laugh, champagne glass halfway to her lips. Greg turned pale, his hand dropping from Tara's back like she'd suddenly caught fire. I stepped beside Oliver, my voice carrying across the suddenly quiet room. Smile, sweetheart, you're on camera. A reporter from a local lifestyle blog was indeed standing nearby, camera rolling, probably expecting to capture some feel-good charity moments. Instead, she'd stumbled onto the story of the year. I looked at Greg, keeping my voice steady and clear. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? All those late-night book meetings? All those speaking trips to Atlanta? Tara stammered. This isn't the place. No, I said. This is exactly the place. Since you were so proud of this relationship in private, I figured you wouldn't mind sharing it in public. Oliver stepped forward, his voice breaking slightly. But here's the thing, Tara. Greg isn't the only one, is he? Should I mention David from your firm? Or the contractor? Tara's face went white. People in the crowd started murmuring, phones coming out. 6 years, Oliver continued, his voice gaining strength. I stood by you through your breakdown, your career change, your fertility treatments. And this is how you repay me? By building a whole network of affairs? People were staring now. Whispers echoed through the crowd like wildfire. I saw phones coming out, cameras rolling. The story was about to go viral. Then came my final blow. By the way, I said, pulling out a manila envelope, here's a full record of your texts, photos, and hotel bookings. Compiled, time-stamped, and verified. Should be useful when I file for divorce. I handed it to Greg like it was an invitation to hell. His hands shook as he took it. Kate, please, not here. We can talk about this at home. Home? I laughed. You mean the place where you've been lying to me for a year? Where you've been gaslighting me into thinking I'm crazy? No, Greg. We're done talking. The gala ended in chaos. Greg chased me to the valet, begging me to talk, to work this out. Tara fled in the opposite direction, Oliver on her heels, demanding answers about her other affairs. I didn't go home. I couldn't face that house, those memories, the bed where Greg had lied to me every night for months. Instead, I went to my sister's. I needed space, air, a reality check. I can't believe you actually did it, my sister said, pouring me a glass of wine. In front of all those people, that took guts. Or stupidity, I replied. I'm not sure which. But even as I said it, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Relief. The truth was out. No more secrets, no more lies, no more pretending everything was fine. Greg texted me the next morning. "Let's talk. We can work this out." Bold, considering he'd just had his affair exposed like a circus act. But Greg wasn't the type to fold. He was the type to spin. And that's exactly what he tried to do. When I finally went home to get some clothes, I discovered Greg had been busy. Our joint savings account, the one with $30,000 we'd been saving for a down payment on a bigger house, was nearly empty. I called my lawyer immediately. "This is common," she said. "Cheaters often try to hide assets once they realize they're caught. The good news is we can trace everything. The bad news is this is about to get ugly." She was right. By midweek, Greg was on social media, painting himself as a man blindsided by a vindictive wife. He even hinted that I had mental health issues. The gaslighting had gone public. Oh, he wanted war. Greg's next move was low, even for him. He started dropping hints in interviews, podcasts, even at church. Sometimes when people are struggling internally, they lash out at the ones who love them. Excuse me? I was the unstable one now? Then came the bombshell. He accused me of emotional abuse, said I monitored his movements, and tried to isolate him from friends, which would be hilarious if it wasn't so strategic. I knew what he was doing, using textbook DARVO, deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. I teach this stuff for a living. Still, it hurt. Some people bought it. I got comments from confused followers, colleagues asking questions in hushed tones. Even my own aunt called and said, "Are you sure you're okay, sweetie? You don't seem like yourself lately." Meanwhile, someone who'd been at the gala posted about it on social media. The story was spreading beyond our immediate circle, morphing and growing with each retelling. But the reactions were mixed. Some people defended Greg, others criticized me for airing dirty laundry. I had to weather plenty of criticism before any vindication came. So I did what any wronged woman with a platform would do. I booked a live segment. They always say revenge is best served cold. Mine was aired live in HD with studio lighting and a 4-camera setup. The day of the interview, I wore navy, authoritative, grounded. My producer asked gently, "You sure you want to go there?" I didn't answer. I just smiled. As the show opened, the host gave a sanitized recap. Today, we welcome Dr. Kate Green, psychologist, author, and host of Inside Minds, who's here to discuss betrayal, gaslighting, and reclaiming your narrative. Clever phrasing. But I didn't come for clever. I came for truth. "I've spent years helping people navigate emotional trauma," I said, steady, "but I never expected to become a case study myself." I laid it out, calm, clinical, devastating. How my husband, Greg, built a secret life with another married woman. How he used my career as a shield for his own guilt. How he tried to twist the narrative, make me the unstable one, while hiding an affair that spanned 2 states and at least 3 hotel loyalty programs. Halfway through the segment, my earpiece buzzed. The producer. "We just got an anonymous message. You'll want to see this." During the break, I was handed a tablet. There it was, a forwarded email thread from Greg to one of our mutual friends. Subject line, "Need help discrediting Kate. She's unraveling." Unraveling? Was that what he called calmly torching his reputation with facts? In the email, Greg had outlined a plan to expose Kate's obsession with control and asked the friend to help subtly leak stories that painted me as manipulative and cold. My stomach flipped. This wasn't just damage control. Greg was trying to destroy me. Live segment or not, I held the tablet up to the camera. "Seems my husband's been busy," I said. "Plotting narratives, not healing them." The audience, in studio and online, lost it. The hashtag #GregExposed started trending within minutes. But the real validation came that night. I was walking to my car after the show when a young woman approached me. "Excuse me," she said shyly. "I just wanted to say thank you. I've been in a relationship where I was constantly being told I was crazy, that I was imagining things. Watching you stand up for yourself, it gave me the courage to leave." She walked away before I could respond, but her words hit me harder than any trending hashtag ever could. The next few weeks were a hurricane, but for once I wasn't the one being blown away. Greg's attempt to discredit me backfired hard. The email I revealed on air became the lead story across media circles. A local affiliate even ran a breakdown of Greg's breakdown segment, complete with dramatic reenactments. His career? Torched. His reputation? Scorched earth. But I was about to discover just how deep Greg's deception ran. 2 months after the live segment, I hired a private investigator to help trace our missing assets. What he found led us to a storage unit on the outskirts of town. Oliver came with me when we went to investigate. We'd become close friends through our shared trauma, meeting regularly for coffee to help each other process everything that had happened. The storage unit was in a grimy strip of lockers, Unit 237. The PI had tracked Greg's credit card payments to this location going back almost 2 years. When we cut the lock and rolled up the door, we found something that made my blood run cold. It wasn't just photos and love letters. There were fake documents, bank statements with my forged signature, business incorporation papers for companies I'd never heard of, tax returns showing income I'd never earned. "This is elaborate," Oliver said, flipping through a folder. "He's been planning this for years." The most chilling discovery was a handwritten notebook in Greg's familiar scrawl. Page after page of detailed plans. If Kay gets suspicious, implement Phase 2. Transfer remaining assets to offshore accounts. Plant evidence of Kay's embezzlement from the show. Use her psychological profile against her. Frame as breakdown. Storage unit serves as insurance policy. If exposure inevitable, use planted evidence to redirect blame. Kay's career in psychology makes her perfect scapegoat for financial crimes. Tara knows nothing about financial setup, can be sacrificed if necessary, multiple contingencies in place. My hands shook as I read. This wasn't just an affair. Greg had been systematically planning to destroy my life and frame me for crimes I didn't commit. "He was going to frame you," Oliver said quietly. "All of this, it was never about love or leaving you for Tara. It was about stealing everything and making you take the fall." The storage unit revealed Greg's true nature. He wasn't just a cheating husband, he was a calculating predator who'd spent years setting up his escape plan at my expense. We called my lawyer immediately. Within hours, the authorities were involved. Within a week, Greg was arrested on charges of fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy. The investigation revealed he'd been siphoning money from our joint accounts for over 2 years, building a financial escape plan that would have left me bankrupt and facing federal charges. But here's the most poetic part. When the authorities came for him, Greg tried to throw Tara under the bus, claimed she'd manipulated him, that she was the mastermind behind the financial crimes. Unfortunately for Greg, Tara was already cooperating with authorities. Faced with potential charges as an accessory, she quickly provided everything. Their burner phone call logs, hotel receipts, text messages where Greg discussed his insurance policy, even recordings where he bragged about how he'd pin everything on Kate if it goes south. The woman who'd helped destroy my marriage became the key witness in his downfall. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. 6 months later, 3 major publishers were in a bidding war for my story. Shattered Myths, The Psychology of Hidden Betrayal, was fast-tracked for publication after the media attention made it a guaranteed bestseller. The book opened with a quote from Greg himself, one of his planning notes from the storage unit. "Kay's psychological training makes her the perfect victim. She'll analyze everyone but herself." Oh, Greg, I analyzed everything. And now, so does the world. The book hit #1 on bestseller lists within days of release. I launched a companion podcast that immediately topped the charts. My fan base exploded, not because of scandal, but because people saw a woman who refused to be destroyed. The most meaningful moment came during my first book signing. A woman approached my table, tears in her eyes. "I left my husband last month," she said quietly. "He'd been having an affair for 2 years and convinced me I was paranoid for suspecting it. When I saw your interview, something clicked. I realized I wasn't crazy, I was being manipulated." She bought 3 copies of my book, one for herself, one for her sister, and one for her therapist. "Thank you," she said, "for showing me that fighting back isn't always wrong." Oliver, who had become a true friend through our shared experience, was there that day. His own divorce had been finalized, and Tara's law firm had fired her after the affair scandal broke. "You know," he said afterward, "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm grateful. What happened to us was awful, but it led us to the truth, and the truth, painful as it is better than living a lie." He was right. The truth had set us free, not just from our cheating spouses, but from the versions of ourselves who would have stayed silent, who would have accepted less than we deserved. And as for Greg, He took a plea deal. 4 years in federal prison for fraud and identity theft. No special treatment, no more brand. Just an orange jumpsuit and a number. But I'll admit, my favorite moment came at a speaking event in New York. I was mid-panel when someone yelled from the audience, "Did you ever confront Greg in prison?" The crowd hushed. I smiled. No, I didn't need to. Greg's greatest punishment isn't prison, it's irrelevance. Applause erupted. Later that evening, someone slipped me a note, anonymous but handwritten. "Thank you for choosing to fight back publicly. Because of you, I left my own gaslighter. I'm free now." That meant more than 1 million views, because that's what it's all about. Not revenge for revenge's sake, but reclaiming your voice when someone tries to steal it. The truth had found its mic, and I was never giving it back. So, what do you think? Did I go too far? Would you have kept it private, or dragged them into the spotlight like I did? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your story. If you found this tale soothing, empowering, or just deliciously dramatic, subscribe for more stories of betrayal, justice, and the sweet art of comeback. You don't want to miss what's next, because trust me, the truth always finds a mic.